So, where were we? Oh yeah, Fred Phelps on national daytime television, telling a grieving mother that her late son is burning in hell. Because that's exactly the kind of love and compassion we've come to expect from Phelps and fam. In our last episode, we dug into the origin story of Westboro Brimstone Cult. How a man who once fought for civil rights transformed into America's most infamous hate preacher. We saw the signs, the screaming, the smugness. We watched him harass the terminally ill, scream, "They're going to hell," as people looked on in disbelief, and then convinced themselves that he was the victim when he wasn't allowed to dominate the conversation and spread his hate unchecked. But that was just the opening act. Today we talk about what happened after Ricky, after Phil, after Jerry Springer. When the social media age dawned, Westboro saw a whole new arena for their hate, and they dove in head first. Suddenly, the world was their dumpster, and they were ready to and willing to set it on fire. But at what cost? Twitter debates, shattered loyalties, family members seeing the light, Fred himself shunned by the church he built. And beneath it all, a slow, strange unraveling that could very well see the entire movement meet its end. So, are we witnessing the final days of Westboro? Maybe. Or perhaps it's just a new chapter of the same old hate. Either way, grab a drink and get comfy. Welcome to the end times. This show dives into brutal, often deeply queerphobic crimes, and we don't water anything down. If graphic violence, systemic injustice, or hearing the truth about homophobia makes you uncomfortable, consider this your cue to know about now. And if you're here to troll, moralize, or defend bigotry in any form, log off, go touch some grass, and maybe rethink your life choices. For everyone else, get comfy and let's tell the stories the world tried to bury. And here we are. Hey again. So we're back again.
We are.
How are you feeling this time?
A little bit better.
Yeah. Can you guys hear us? Let us know in the comments if we're coming through loud and clear.
Pretty please.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll see. Anyway.
Oh, no.
So yes, last time was frustrating for me. I know the story kind of, and it annoyed me all over again. This time, I want to talk about Westboro in the social media age.
Okay.
And I want to discuss the future of Westboro. Okay. So I suppose we may as well dive straight in. Westboro basically, they embraced the internet age the social media age pretty early on. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, as soon as there was any form of content creation that they could throw out there, they would. So they had those two lovely websites, God Hates Fogs.com
There we go.
and GodHatesAmerica.com, and don't go on there because you cannot unsee anything once you've seen it. It's going to live in your brain. And then with Facebook, and obviously when Facebook became more popular, they jumped on there. And then our friends, X, formerly known as Twitter, they jumped on there. So anywhere that they had an avenue to get their message out, they would use.
And how were they received on these platforms? Because if you think about X these days, they would probably be the darlings of the site. But how were they received back then?
Not exceptionally well. So back then people were still moderate on there, and also people didn't stand for a lot of nonsense. So if you came out there and you were prejudiced or hateful, people would take you on about that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they weren't exceptionally. I mean, there's a small corner of the internet back then even that accepted them, but for most of them were in the church. But for the most part, people were quite angry and aggressive towards them on the platforms.
We'll actually get to Megan where she speaks about her time on Twitter in a bit. But did they still continue with the protesting of all the funerals and things like that? Did they still continue with all that, even with Twitter?
Yes. Actually, to this day, they still do some form of protest. So Twitter was just another avenue.
Okay.
So like they used to spend upwards of $200,000 a year on travel to go to wherever they needed to go to. So like someone, especially when they started protesting soldiers, which is a whole other category, they'd scan the obituaries and see where soldiers' funerals were being held, and then like rally the troops and see who was available on that day, and then get in the car, get on a plane, or whatever the case may be, and then go and protest.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
So they were pretty freaking organized.
Yes, and for the longest time, Shirley was kind of at the helm of that little section of the church.
So, okay. I've seen mention that they became the villains of the internet. Would that be an accurate description of them?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. But then, okay, let's move on to Megan. Okay, she went onto Twitter. She basically became their social media person. Is that correct?
Yes. So she was one of those early adopters, and what she would do is she would speak the messages, and then also if anyone responded to them or had backlash, she'd obviously retort with Bible verses that made sense to them, and proved their point in their minds.
Okay.
So yeah, so she was mostly in charge of that.
Okay, and now just to clarify, Megan is Fred Phelps' granddaughter.
Yes.
Shirley's daughter.
Yes.
Okay. And then, okay, I did come across a TED talk that Megan did in 2017, which I absolutely recommend anybody go and watch it. If they haven't seen it, there is a link down in the description. 100% go and watch it. It's brilliant. But wait until we finish. Yeah. Jade, if you can just play the Megan TED talk, please.
In 2009, that zeal brought me to Twitter. Initially, the people I encountered on the platform were just as hostile as I expected. They were the digital version of the screaming hordes I'd been seeing at protests since I was a kid. But in the midst of that digital brawl, a strange pattern developed. Someone would arrive at my profile with the usual rage and scorn. I would respond with a custom mix of Bible verses, pop culture references, and smiley faces. They would be understandably confused and caught off guard, but then a conversation would ensue. And it was civil, full of genuine curiosity on both sides. How had the other come to such outrageous conclusions about the world? Sometimes the conversation even bled into real life. People I'd sparred with on Twitter would come out to the picket line to see me when I protested in their city. A man named David was one such person. He ran a blog called Julicious, and after several months of heated but friendly arguments online, he came out to see me at a picket in New Orleans. He brought me a Middle Eastern dessert from Jerusalem, where he lives, and I brought him kosher chocolate and held a God Hates Jews sign. There was no confusion about our positions, but the line between friend and foe was becoming blurred. We'd started to see each other as human beings, and it changed the way we spoke to one another. It took time, but eventually these conversations planted seeds of doubt in me. My friends on Twitter took the time to understand Westboro's doctrines, and in doing so, they were able to find inconsistencies I'd missed my entire life. Why did we advocate the death penalty for gays when Jesus said, "Let he who is without sin cast the first stone"? How could we claim to love our neighbor while at the same time praying for God to destroy them? The truth is that the care shown to me by these strangers on the internet was itself a contradiction.
Okay, so again, there's a link in the description. I highly recommend you go and watch it. It is a really, it's an eye-opening talk that she gives. It's not very long. It's like 15 minutes, but really, really good. And what I really enjoyed about that is that she speaks about the 4 ways that people engage with her and how they engage with her that was different to what she was used to. This David character, he opened her eyes and he guided her away. Now, apparently, after she left the church, she went and stayed with a rabbi and his family.
Yes, and some Hasidic Jews. So she basically couch hopped with these people because she didn't have anywhere to go. The full story is in that video, but what happened was, having been with these people and having just normal conversations with them and breaking bread with them to an extent helped her see that doesn't matter what they believe, everyone is like loving and caring, and not everyone is horrible and going to go to hell and die.
And something else that I learned from that video is that she met her husband through Twitter.
Yes.
Who basically engaged with her in the same way.
Yes.
Now, so what I took away from that video is that she logged on to spread her hate, and she logged off with her humanity intact, which I thought that as much as I find Twitter, because I refuse to call it X, as much as I find Twitter an absolute cesspit now, something at least something good came out of it.
Yeah. I've spoken to a couple of cult survivors, and through my research and reading a lot about it, what I have found is that what happens is, if you aggressively go against the cult, you're basically fulfilling the prophecy. So everyone outside is bad. They don't understand us. In some cults, they're like, the harder the people scream at us, the more you know that they're against us. Where what a lot of people have said is, if they have a soft landing or a non-judgmental person in their life that they can just go to and speak to, and the person isn't like, you need to get out, your stuff's all nonsense. They just listen and sometimes talk. That helps them get a different perspective, and then helps them kind of move away slowly and get out. That's when you hit them with aggression, that you basically say, the cult leaders go, everyone outside is bad, and you can see it by the way they treat us. So if you're going to treat them horribly, you're reinforcing what the cult leader is saying. Whereas if you give them a soft landing, where you treat them with kindness, they're like, wait a minute, these evil people are showing me love and respect. And a lot of times, especially if you're deeper into the cult, you don't get that anymore. It's all like behavioral control and thought control and information control and emotional control. So everything gets controlled. And then you've got this person that's like nice to you and treats you like a human being. So of course you're gonna, to some degree, gravitate towards that.
One thing you actually mentioned last week that I want to bring up again this time is you said that Westboro doesn't operate like a normal cult where they deny access and information and things like that. Explain that. Explain that. What do you mean by they don't deny it? What is that all about?
Okay, so usually in cults, what they'll do is the leader will have a certain set of rules and a certain set of teachings. And then they'll stop you from going on the internet or reading certain books or listening to music or watching TV or whatever the case may be, so that your whole world is closed into this one bit of ideology. So with Westboro, they were allowed to listen to popular music. They even made some of their delightful parodies to popular songs of the time. They were allowed to read books because in Fred's teachings, he said that you need to understand your enemy so that you can better fight them. Having said that, they were still in an extremely controlled environment. So yeah, you can listen to pop music, but you can't have friends. Yes, you can go to school, but you cannot hang out with everyone. So it was still, they had a little bit more of the world, but still in a quite a controlled way. So for example, the children of God, they were only allowed to read the letters that the leader wrote. They were only allowed to read certain books. At Westboro, you couldn't like read different versions of the Bible. It was, and I don't know why, but there's the King James version. A lot of cult leaders love that version. So yeah,
the Trump Bible is King James version. So
yeah. So yes,
yeah.
so yeah.
I
It's different because they were kind of exposed a little bit to the world, but with a tightish leash where other people are not exposed at all.
So when Megan finally got out, her sister also went with her, I think.
Yes.
Grace.
Yes.
Okay. A lot of from what I've come across in articles on HuffPost and things like that, a number of Shirley's kids are no longer in the church. I think Zacharias is out.
Oh, I can't remember his name.
Megan's out, Grace is out. Then there's Nathan, who is Fred's son, and then there's another daughter. You mentioned
no, not Margie.
the one that changed her surname to Bird.
Yes.
So Westboro is slowly but surely. They were, I wouldn't say bleeding members, but people who are raised in the church. Once I do feel that the internet age or the social media age did allow them to see the light.
Yes.
And when Fred was, coming to end of life, he softened a bit. From what I'm saying, from what I read on, I think it was a HuffPost article. I actually think I have it. It's the let me see if I can find it.
Just while you're looking for that, I think one of the things, so Fred and his teachings were very like, if someone dies, you don't hold a funeral because you're celebrating the dead. And they were very much against that. So
please throw up the quote regarding the no funerals.
Thank you.
This is one of the things that I found, that now that you mention it, is speculation about funeral arrangements for Phelps may be pointless, as a Westboro Baptist Church member previously told the Huffington Post that WBC does not believe in having funerals or memorials because we do not worship the dead in this church, so there'll be no public memorial or funeral to Pickett if any member died. Thank you. You can take it on. Fuck those. They protest funerals.
Yes.
Who are honoring the dead.
Yes.
And then they go, well, you're not going to fucking protest ours.
Yes, but it leads back to the teaching. So you can't protest something and then go do it yourself, right? That's contradictory, and we couldn't have that. So what happened was Fred's wife became very, very ill.
Mm-hmm.
And when she ended up in hospital, I think that's when, and this is just my opinion, but I think that's when his mindset started shifting a little bit, because she, I think, was truly the love of his life, despite how what he did to her.
Mm-hmm.
And she stood by his side and was there through thick and thin and all the things. And I think when he realized that he was going to lose her and that he's going to have to say goodbye to her, he was like, I've been protesting all these people that have lost loved ones, and now I'm kind of facing the same thing. So I think that's kind of where it started shifting, but now he's also got this train that's barreling down. So it's not like you can quickly reverse the train. So I think that's when it started, that whole change of heart.
Yeah. Okay. So he now had to, he was coming to the end of his days, and he wanted Shirley to take over, right?
Yes, he did.
And so he basically said to, so she was now basically preparing to step into his shoes, and there was a council of elders, I think it was.
There's a council of elders.
All men who decided they're not going to be led by a woman. Which, if you look at the Ricky Lake interview episode from last week, it's not a clip that I included because I actually found it quite offensive. But he says one of the guys on the stage with him was an AIDS activist, gay guy who was dying of AIDS. Funny enough, I actually found his obituary, and he didn't actually last much longer after that. I think it was like 5 years. It was 93 to 98. But his mother was a preacher, and Fred turned around and said, "Well, I don't know what you've been learning from that woman." He preached misogyny.
Yes.
And then couldn't figure out why the church didn't want Shirley to take over. You can please throw up the WBC feud clip. Here we are. According to an interview with Nate Phelps, his son, who left the church 37 years ago, Fred Phelps was ejected from the group following a power struggle between a board of male elders and longtime spokeswoman Shirley Phelps-Roper. After the elders defeated Phelps-Roper, Fred Phelps reportedly called for kinder treatment of fellow church members, a sentiment that was ill-received. Thanks, you can take it on. So he made his bed and then couldn't understand why they were lying in it.
Yes.
And that call for compassion is what got him kicked out, correct?
Yes.
Do we know for certain that he was kicked out?
He did end up in a home, and I'm sorry, I can't recall the name. I last looked at the stuff in August. But he did end up in a care home where they kind of shipped him off to, and he had very little interaction with the group. So the beast that he created was his sons and Steve Drain,
Ah, yes.
my favorite guy. they all decided that because Shirley was taking over a lot of the administrative stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but not necessarily the preaching, because that was still done by the menfolk.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't want her to have any form of authority, and also they didn't want her to be on camera anymore and give interviews because she was such a force of nature.
Mm.
Maybe because they were intimidated by her. I don't know. I don't live in their brains, but
And I'm sure you're glad about that.
very much so. So yeah. So what these guys were, and again, the three things: cult leaders, money, sex, power, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we know sex is out because, and then money, they make enough money. They're all a bunch of very highly educated lawyer people.
Mm.
And then there's power. So if you've got a small group of people and you're a bunch of guys, what are you going to do? You're going to force more rules down so that you can feel more powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So they
Gosh, isn't that just the patriarchy right there?
no, never. So the guys were like, we're not gonna take orders from this lass, and they kind of had the council of elders, which was married men, had to be married man,
Jesus.
and then everyone had to defer to you. And if you were a single young lady or a older lady, that you would be appointed an elder, and then everything had to go through your elder. In the past, they'd all like have group discussions, and you know, it was a little bit more interactive. And when the elders took over, they're like, no cookies for you.
There was somewhere else that he also mellowed, apparently. Please throw up Equality Mott. Now, these are two houses in Topeka, Kansas.
Okay.
Please tell everybody where these are located.
Equality House is right across the street from Westboro Baptist Church, and Mott House is situated right next door to Equality House, right across the street from Westboro Baptist Church.
So, this organization, planting something.
Yeah.
I can't remember. It's gone now. They set up these safe spaces for the queer community right across the road.
Yes, on purpose. So the gentleman that started the organization was on Google Maps checking out the area, and he saw that there was a house for sale right across the road from the church. And at that point, he was looking for a safe space for gay people that, unfortunately, a lot of time when people come out to their families, their families kick them out. It's so
Yes.
anyway, so they need a safe landing space, and this was almost like a halfway house, safe space for these people so that they could get back on their feet and then go on with their lives. And when he saw this house for sale across the road from the church, he immediately bought it. And then he got a veteran to paint the house in the pride colors, which was great. It was lovely. They eventually painted it also into the trans colors, but then they bought Mott House. So they painted Mott House in the trans colors and then put Equality House back into the gay pride colors.
Nice. And how did the church respond to this?
I mean, they weren't terribly excited about it.
Can't fathom why.
There was little protests and very poorly chosen sentences thrown towards the people. It wasn't pretty.
And then, in the wake of Fred's death, we'll get to that. Zacharias Phelps-Roper was speaking to the Huffington Post. If you can just put up Zach, please. And he said specifically on the day he was excommunicated, he stood outside of the front door of the church, but not within anyone's earshot, but a few members of WBC who happened to be in the immediate vicinity. I say he spoke words to this effect to the Equality House. You are good people. I feel that he had a change of heart after my grandmother nearly passed away and he felt the pangs of loss. He waited for news of her every day and night while she was in intensive care. I think this triggered a chain reaction whereby he developed great empathy for others, which would explain why he would support Planting Peace, that's it, Planting Peace's anti-suicide and anti-bullying platforms, and these charities across the world. I love my grandfather, and I believe people do change if they are inspired enough.
Not in that article, but I was pretty close.
I do not want to downplay all the terrible things he did. And I'm sorry, no matter how much he changed in his final days, no, that doesn't absolve where he led Westboro Baptist Church, in my opinion.
Okay.
However, and here's the massive but. Thank fuck for that.
Yes, sometimes, I know this is going to be terrible, but there's a saying in Afrikaans called, says, spijt komt te laat. Regret comes too late.
Regret comes too late. Yes, thank you for the translation.
You're welcome. Like I mentioned in my podcast, he'd created this monster and he fueled this monster, and this monster was going, and then the monster kind of grew without him. So by the time he realized what this monster was, it was already far down the line, and there was nothing he could do to stop it because he'd taught them to hate. So they're not going to all of a sudden change their minds just because he did. He is now the traitor and not them.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's, he went from God hates fogs to let's not be an arsehole.
Yes.
But I do love this. Sorry, I need to show you this. That is a picture of Westboro Baptist Church. And somebody's gone and spray painted on their signboard, God hates the Phelps. That image is on the Wikipedia page for the Westboro Baptist Church, where even Wikipedia is trolling them. And unfortunately, as you say, he created this monster. And no amount of let's not be arseholes is going to change that. It's like Darth Vader suddenly having this, this getting all sentimental over the Ewoks. You're going to go, really? Really? So he was then booted out and then he died.
Yes.
Okay. And how did Westboro announce his death? Was there anything fancy? Was there anything?
Nada. Nothing yet.
Yet. Wow.
Just remember, they don't worship the dead. So they are definitely not going to announce that. And by that time, he was so removed already from the group that they were just carrying on. They actually, I think, might have been happy to not have to deal with his sentiments and his new way of thinking, and they could just carry on with their machine.
There was a brilliant cartoon that I saw, and I actually made it. It's cartoon 2. It's basically Fred's funeral. Everybody gathered there. We have one person saying, God hates you, rotten hell. And he goes, well, this is what we always do at funerals. Which I thought was freaking brilliant. When I saw it, I just burst out laughing, like literally. Ah! But yes, he died in silence.
Yes.
And how did the church, what happened with the church after he died? Was there any kind of massive shift, or was it just business as usual?
For the most part, it was business as usual, because as soon as they ousted him, they kind of carried on with their great teachings. What did happen though is there was a little period where more people came to join the church.
Wait, hold up. This is news to me.
So, okay. When you have a teaching that's not so great,
Mm-hmm.
or that is great, somewhere in the world there's going to be a like-minded guy
Okay,
that
yes.
kind of
Yes.
thinks the same way, or would like his family to toe the line a bit more, or wants to be on the council of elders. So there were a couple of people that also joined the church, that weren't Phelpses or Hockenbergers, or cannot recall third family's name.
Well, there was, I do know about Steve Drain coming much earlier, but
Yeah, after his mockumentary, yes, that was great. But yeah, that was him and his wife and his kids. But there were other people that also came.
okay.
Some during Fred's time, some after. But so some people look for community.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we have a little community of our podcasting people where
Yes.
we have like-minded conversations and everything. Then you have your friendship group. So it's good to have people that are outside of your scope as well.
Yes.
But people tend to get drawn towards like-minded people. So if you've got someone that's very fire and brimstone, an anti-fog, an anti-soldier, an anti-everything, they might want to join the Baptist Church.
I went through a situation where I was sent off for correction. And it was the Baptist Church. It's one of the reasons why I'm very anti the Baptist Church. It's one of the reasons why I'm very anti-religion. Well, I'm not anti-religion. I'm just, you just leave me out of it. But even the Baptist Church, the Southern Baptists go, they're a little bit extreme, eh?
Yes.
So as much as they are screwed up, they are. As much as the Baptist Church is screwed up, they're not quite as bad as Westboro Baptist. Fred Phelps died in 2014, somewhere around there, which was the tail end of the Obama presidency. And then Trump came on board and basically gave a permission structure to the extremists to go all in. How has this? Did Westboro lean into that? Did they lean into the fact that it now seemed okay to be a bigot?
Probably yes, but I don't think that the way they were taught, I don't think they cared either way. I think anyone could have sat in the seat and they'd still do what they do, regardless of whether it's more acceptable or not. I don't think that would have really changed anything. Again, I think the harder you'd push against it, the harder they'd fight back.
Okay, all right.
So yeah, maybe it's a little bit more accepted, but I don't think it would have changed anything.
Okay, so let's move on to the last bit we want to tackle this, or I want to tackle this time, is the future of Westboro. Now, COVID did a number on a lot of people from a mental health point of view. How is Westboro doing now post COVID, where we have a lot more people who feel safe, feel okay to be open about their sexuality, their gender identity? Or how has this openness of society, has there been more pushback against Westboro? Have you? I know Twitter is, like as I said, Twitter's become a bit of a nightmare, but it's not the only social media platform, and people are a lot more willing to call out bigotry to its face. People are a lot more willing to embrace their bigotry. How is Westboro now? Do we feel that Westboro is going to eventually fade into nothingness, or will it always be?
That's a very good question. Look, I think to a degree, like you said last time, they might breed themselves out of existence because there's so few diverse members there. And there's a lot of girls that aren't married that are never allowed to get married, because you can only marry if someone belongs to the church. And again, marriage is man, woman, all that. What I do think is there'll always be a form of it out there. And the reason I say that is there's always some form of cult. And the flip side of COVID, people were more open, but a lot more people were unsure. And in times of uncertainty, am I going to live? Am I going to have a job? Are my kids going to be okay? Like it was stressful for everyone. The whole world went through it. But what some people do is they turn to faith. And what some leaders do is take that faith and abuse it. So, yeah, I don't know if Westboro will be around forever, or maybe the church building will still be there, but maybe with a completely different kind of congregation. But groups with like-minded people, that's always going to happen.
What happened, and I kind of know sort of, but what actually happened to Steve Drain? Because he wasn't part of the family, as you mentioned.
Yes.
He came in as someone who was going to make a shitty documentary that poked fun at them and became a total groupie, and things didn't quite work out so well.
No, they didn't.
Speak about that, please, because I don't know the full story.
So there actually hasn't been a lot of like full coverage of what happened in the media for obvious reasons. I feel like they finally want their privacy to the detriment of people who want to go down rabbit holes. But they'd kicked his daughter out because she'd met a boy and she'd used her parents' credit card to fly the boy to Topeka so that she could get him into the church so that they could date. Okay. They weren't happy about that. She got called all the names. And then, so what they would do is they'd have this meeting, and it'd be a big room with all the people around a table. And then everyone had to vote if you stay or go, like off the island. And if there was one person that said they must stay and everyone else voted they need to leave, then the person stayed. It had to be completely unanimous. Okay. And she got unanimously told she's the weakest link, goodbye. And Lauren Drain, that's her name.
Okay.
So
including from her parents?
Yes. They were knee deep in the teachings and the thinking and everything. She was a slut and all the beautiful words. So like when Louis Theroux went and he asked Steve about like how does he feel about his daughter and everything, and he was like God above everything, and you'll see it in the documentary, but basically like don't care about her, all about the religion. And I don't know exactly know what happened during COVID. I don't know if it's because they kind of had to be separated like we all were. I don't know if maybe he was trying to pull rank and the True Blood Phelpses got a bit pissed off. We don't know. But he and his family exited stage left.
Chased by a bear, please God.
That would be great, but I'm not sure. But I do know that they've started reconnecting with Lauren, but I also know that it's a very strained reconnection. But yeah, we'll see. I don't know. But yes, he and his family left, and I don't know why. They say it's because they finally saw the light. I think maybe there was a little bit of a pissing contest between all the guys of who's going to be like top dog. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure. But yes, he has left the group.
I don't know if I would be able to forgive a family member who didn't have my back in something that serious. But as you said last time, I'm never about to be welcomed into a cult. So they don't want me there. I need to start my own.
Hey, find a compound, grow some fruit, have some goats.
Okay. I suppose we can only hope that Westboro and places like it will cease to be. I do not believe for a second that until America has sanity in the White House, it will happen. And I don't think that the Christo-fascist hold in America is going to encourage that extremism to dissipate.
I hear you, and I wish that was so, but they've got that little annoying First Amendment.
Which,
regardless of who sits on the throne, you're gonna have the bigot, and the bigot's gonna scream, and he's gonna have groupies.
what blows my mind is they use the First Amendment like a weapon.
Yes.
It was never supposed to be used like that, and yet they went
Full tilt.
It drives me mad. But anyway, I think that we have squeezed all the blood out of the stone that we can, unless you have any other insights that you would like to impart.
I'm good, thank you.
Oh, thank God. This
I'm done with the Phelpses.
Funny enough, I did in the last group I did, the last series I did, we did Sizzlers, and when it was finished, I went, thank fuck, because it was just such an intense case that I didn't want to. I've covered it twice, once on a podcast, once in the live stream, and I don't want to ever have to look at it again because it cuts every time. This one is the same, but in a different way. This one makes me angry because why is it so hard just to go, you know what, I don't agree with you, and so therefore I'm just going to excuse myself from the conversation because I have nothing constructive to add. Ricky Lake actually said it. Why do you care? What does it matter what other people are doing?
Because you're a narcissist and you want attention. How are you getting attention? He's screaming at the evil frogs.
Okay, yes, actually, that is something I do want to touch on before we wrap up.
Yes.
Do you believe that Fred, through all of his activism, truly believed what he was saying? Because if I look at the Ricky Lake interview, and you look at how he's reacting in that interview, he's smug, he's smiling, he's laughing at people getting annoyed and getting animated. When he's not allowed to dominate the conversation, then he gets all. But I thought this was going to be a back and forth. Was it? Bitch, please. There is no back and forth if you want to fucking talk all the time. Do you believe that he actually, or do you think that he actually believed what he was spewing, or was he just doing it because he had some antagonism kink?
I don't think the guy knew what a kink was. You know, when someone tells a lie so much that it becomes their truth, I think that's kind of what happened. So maybe he had this anger, pointed it against the evil gays, and then obviously needed to justify it. And he was a very angry man. And even his family would say, when he started getting very much into church and Bible, and he was baptized and stuff, that he'd vehemently like shove his religion down your throat and shove his views down your throat. So yes, to a degree, I think he believed it, or at least eventually believed it, and then had a change of heart. It's like, I know it's a terrible correlation, but I Lafayette Ron Hubbard that wrote his beautiful science fiction books. People that were around him towards
was
the
that
end,
his name?
Yes, that was his name.
Lafayette Ron Hubbard. Oh my gosh. Okay, sorry. As
You're welcome. But towards the end, when he was also going a little bit around the bend, he would use his like science to try and get these things out of his body. So towards the end, he started believing his own bullshit. And I think maybe to a degree, Fred, yes, some of the stuff he vehemently believed, but maybe some of the stuff he eventually started to believe because he said it so much. I don't know.
I watched that Ricky Lake interview, that episode, and I was just like, really? Do you honestly believe all this, or are you just out there to, get people riled up? Is this actually what floats your boat? The dude is dead. Let's well, no, fuck that. I will speak ill of the dead. The dude is dead, and we're all much better off for it. But unfortunately, his influence, it's like that old ad we used to see ahead of movies back when we were both much younger. The little kid watching a movie, and then he goes off to bed, and you see the film flashing on his face. That freaked me out like you have no idea. That ad unsettled me like no other. But it's true, the effects stay long after the movie's over. That was the line, and his effects are lasting long after the movie is over.
Well, okay, before change of heart, he wanted to leave a legacy, right? That's kind of what everyone wants to do. Want to leave some type of legacy, and his legacy was hate and bigotry.
Yeah.
So we kind of got what he wanted.
True. Okay. Now I think we've really squeezed all the blood out of the stone. If you found this episode worth your time, or even worth raising an eyebrow, do all the YouTube stuff,
like, share, comment,
I'm not going to say all that because I don't want to feel like one of those cheesy YouTubers. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
And yeah, if you think it was worth it, do all the YouTube things. If you don't, that's fine. I'm not your mom. It's all good. If you really want to support the show, over on Patreon, you'll find a link down in the show notes. And basically, help us out by allowing us to bring you queer stories, hard truths, and zero fluff. And
a couple of facts.
There we go. And yeah, so thank you so much for sticking around. I really appreciate it. And I will see you next time.
Bye.